Do you really want to change your finances? I mean, do you really want to change your finances? Where you can wake up and know that your bills are paid, your debt is non-existent, your savings are growing, that you're earning money while you sleep, and that you're making the best possible money decisions for you. In this video, I'm going to give you a 9-step program to help make all of this possible. I wanted to take the 12 years I've been working in finance, all the money lessons I've learned, and put them into a single step-by-step program. The first thing that you really need to do is understand your money, how much will hit your account on payday every month, and most importantly, where it gets spent. And an audit is the best way to do it. There are basically 3 main reasons you want to start with the audit first. It gives you a starting point. It lets you really understand how good or bad your finances are, completely unfiltered. It highlights your money blind spots. Maybe you had more than you expected at the end of every month. Maybe your weekly takeaway is costing more than you thought. And the third thing, and maybe the most importantly, is it gives you clarity. The numbers just don't lie. So here's what you do. Get all your bank statements, pay slips, credit card statements, everything that's associated with your finances for the last 3 months. Absolutely all of your incomings and your outgoings, and you put them into a very simple spreadsheet with 2 columns. For each month, you want to take your income and deduct all of your expenses for that month. This tells you, are you positive or negative at the end of the month? And the reason we do this for the last 3 months is so that we can work out what is normal rather than looking at a single month in isolation. If you looked at your spending just in December, it would look vastly different compared to pretty much any other month of the year. The second thing you need to do is to put your expenses into 3 groups: your needs, your wants, and your saving and investing. We'll come back to this bit later. And the next step is to look at your credit score. This allows you to know whether your credit score needs improving, if there are any inaccuracies that you need to dispute. You can use any of the major credit agencies. You fill in a few details and they can run a report for you. But they also have the added benefit that they might find stuff that you might have missed off your list. And once you have your credit report, you can also realistically assess your debt options if you need to. This might include consolidating debt into a single balance and hammering away at that, transferring balances to a lower rate. It's just good to know what your options are. So this is your starting point. So now, oddly, we'll take you to your finish point, which is your goals. What are your money goals and when do you want to achieve them? Whether it's paying off debt, building a savings fund, buying a house, getting kids onto the housing ladder, whatever it is, you need to write down what your money goals are going to be. And most importantly, when you're setting these money goals, you should do 2 things. You should ask yourself, why are you setting this money goal? And are they smart money goals? And I know you might have seen this in a My First Business Studies textbook, but the truth is that whilst there are plenty of other frameworks that you can use out there when it comes to setting goals, this one is lovely and simple, and it can also just be really effective. So your money goals should be SMART. That's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So for example, a non-SMART money goal would be, I want to save more money, which is good, but kind of doesn't really help you. The SMART version of that goal would be, I want to save £5,000 by the end of the year. And when you're setting your money goals, be mindful of what you're cutting and how much you're cutting, and really to work out if it's going to make a material difference to your money goals and to your life. And going through this process really has 2 main advantages. You can track your progress. It makes it easier to measure your success over time to find out if you're ahead or behind where you should be. And it really improves your decision making. By having money goals, you can really make sure that your spending aligns with your money goals and your priorities. So once you've written those goals down, you need to split them into 2. You need to look at your short term, which are goals you want to do in the next year, and long term, which is more than a year. This will basically let you know how often you need to check in on those goals, but more on that later on in the video. And I know this might seem like a really basic thing to do, but the truth is that financial goals, they're not just about the numbers and figures. They provide the direction and motivation towards where you want to end up. And maybe the most important thing is that they can help you reframe all of your financial decisions to make sure that they're all in service of these goals. If it's paying down debt, hitting a savings target, increasing your income, or just making better money decisions, your goals can help support absolutely all of that. Next is the budget. Now, there's a reason why you do your audit first and then your goals second, and that's because now you have where you're starting from, which you get from your audit, and where you want to get to, which you get from your goals. So now you can basically reverse engineer how you're going to get to those goals. Let's say you've got £6,000 in debt and you want to pay it off within a year. That's £500 a month. Put it in the budget. So what you need to do is map out the starting point for each one of your goals and then what you want the outcome to be at the end of it. You can use that to work out how much of your income you need to dedicate towards each of those individual goals. But if you don't have much in the way of money goals, you just want to make better financial decisions, then you can use the 50-30-20 budget. Allocate 50% of your after-tax income to your needs, 30% to your wants, and 20% to your saving and investing. Your 50% needs are your bills that you absolutely must pay. These are things that are basically necessary for survival. Half of your after-tax income should be going to cover all of those needs. And one thing this may reveal through your audit is you might need to reconsider or start cutting down some of your wants to try and downsize your lifestyle if your spending is going over 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants. These are things that you want to spend money on. They aren't absolutely essential, but they're those little extras that you like to spend a bit more money on to make your life more enjoyable. 20% of your after-tax income to savings and investing. But we should also point out that this should be after you've got your 3 months of emergency fund, which we'll also come on to next. And to really level this up, rather than getting paid, spending on your wants and hoping you've got some money left at the end of the month to put into saving and investing, that might not work. So what you can do is pay yourself first, which is to get paid, put money towards your saving and investing, and then spend on your wants. Because the thing is, when it comes to your wants, because it's stuff that you want to spend your money on, you become really, really good at saving those pennies to make it happen. So we've just mentioned it, but next is your emergency fund. And your emergency fund does exactly what it says on the tin. It's designed to make sure that when you have unexpected costs, you have a separate pot that you can dip into, so you don't have to go out and borrow money. But ultimately, your emergency fund has 4 main benefits. It gives you the peace of mind. It reduces the financial stress when you've got some uncertain times ahead. We've just mentioned it helps you avoid debt. Covering those unexpected expenses without needing to borrow money helps you make better decisions by basically having something you can fall back onto. It avoids hasty financial decisions during emergencies, and flexibility. It just gives you that breathing room in tough times. And another one I will often add to this list is it gives you the opportunity to take chances. An opportunity comes up for a job which you really want to take. It's maybe for a bit less money, but there's income growth available. Your emergency fund can help facilitate that. So when it comes to your emergency fund, how big should it be? Well, depending on which side of the coin you find yourselves on, I hear people saying that 1 month is fine, all the way up to 12 months is better. I think personally, both of those are absolute hogwash. I think that 3 to 6 months is the best place to start, but 3 to 6 months of your needs is really the key thing, because it's much easier to cut back on your wants if times get tough. Investing. Okay, so things are looking pretty good, right? You've done your audit, you know what your goals are going to be, you've figured out how you're going to hit each one, and now you're starting to build your emergency fund. Now it's time to really start cooking on gas. As we've discussed, saving money is important, but it's only part of the story. Smart savers will start by building their emergency fund. But after you've got a fully funded emergency fund, what do you start to do with the surplus? And that's really where investing comes into the picture. Investing can be one of the most effective ways to put your money to work and build wealth for you and your family over the long term. And the reason why investing is so important is that if you leave your money sitting in a bank account, then every single year its value is going to be eroded by inflation. So by investing, you're letting your money go out and work for you whilst you sleep. But the other great thing about investing is that the real power and the potential of investing is compound interest. This is where an investment generates earnings or generates returns which are then reinvested. And these dividends then generate their own set of earnings, which means that the rate of growth over time accelerates. Just take a look at this graph here to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. And there are really 2 main ways you should be investing. The first one you should be looking at is your pension. Perfectly sound advice is to maximize the value that your employer will match contributions to into your pension pot. This money is tax-free and it's an easy way to double your income. There are so few things in life you can double your money on, guaranteed. This is one of them, so take advantage. Then you should be looking at your tax-advantaged account. In the UK here, we have an ISA, which you can put up to £20,000 a year in. The money from this can then grow free of capital gains and income tax, and you can withdraw it without incurring any taxes or any penalties. And Warren Buffett is widely considered to be the greatest investor in history. But he's a big fan of the index fund, going so far to say in his 2013 letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, "My advice to the trustee could not be more simple. Put 10% of cash in short-term government bonds and 90% in a very low-cost S&P 500 index fund." So what is an index fund? Well, an index fund basically tracks the overall market, automatically adjusting and buying all the stocks and shares that sit within that particular index. It's been consistently proven to be one of the cheapest and most effective ways to build wealth. Index funds will very often beat actively managed funds by offering much better returns, but they're also so much cheaper. And this has always been the conundrum of active funds, that even if they're able to beat the market, which frankly few can do, the wins will often get gobbled up by sky-high fees. So lots of people get trapped with these subpar returns and they pay well over the odds for those subpar returns. Next is to automate and simplify. Would you be surprised if I told you that there was this paper from Ohio State University which found that only 9% of Americans who make New Year's resolutions successfully achieve them, that 23% of people abandon their resolutions by the end of the first week, and 43% by the end of January. So relying on financial willpower to hit your money targets is a very high-risk strategy, and there's plenty of evidence to back up that people will just fail. It's also fair to say that most people's goals these days don't revolve around getting a six-pack or walking 1,000 steps. They're generally financial goals. This shows that people are becoming more concerned about improving their wealth rather than improving their health. Saving more topped this recent poll at 45%, beating exercising more by an 8 percentage point lead, and reducing debt came in at third at 32%. And the key thing here really is not to just rely on your financial willpower, not to just rely on when you remember. So what can you do here? Everyone has things going on. We're juggling work, family, social lives, and 100 other things. So remembering some of the boring and more mundane parts of life can feel like it's just another thing on the to-do list. So what can you do? You can level this up by automating your saving and investing. The day that you get paid, have an automated deposit drop money into your savings and investings account so that you don't even see the money. It never even enters your bank account for you to be tempted to spend it. By having this automation in place and not just relying on your memory, this is one of the key things that you should be doing to make sure that you're building wealth and putting that money aside. You can take this a step further and do what I do. I get paid on around the 28th of the month, and I have it set up so that every single bill comes out of my account on the 1st of the month. And the logic is frankly very simple. I can log onto my banking app on my phone and on the 1st of the month see exactly how much money I have to spend on my wants. I don't have to make any deductions for future money that I know will need to go out. And there's empirical research on this one too. A study by Vanguard found that automatic contributions are one of the biggest factors in growing wealth over time. And there's plenty of studies that show that when people automate their finances, they're more likely to stick to their saving and investing goals. In fact, one study by Morningstar found that automating your contributions can increase your savings rate by over 15%. Why is that? Well, because by removing yourself and your emotions from the equation, just think about it for a sec. You don't need willpower to pay your Netflix every month because it's automated. And imagine if your saving and investing worked exactly the same way. And a good way to think about this is you want to be an investment automator, not a sporadic saver. While most people might save what's left after spending, people who are good with money understand that they create systems to automatically direct money into their investing accounts before they can get to discretionary spending. Basically their wants. Sporadic savers, on the other hand, rely on willpower and often invest inconsistently or not at all. So setting up automatic transfers to investment accounts can transform your wealth building journey from an occasional thought to a consistent practice. And also use this opportunity to simplify the other half of this process. You don't need to be invested in loads of funds, have 9 different pensions and a whole load of different credit cards. Keeping it simple at this stage can be key. Protect yourself and your money. It can be really easy to go overboard here, and whilst you obviously don't wish for bad things to happen, they do. And I think it will always be sound advice to have protection rather than not. And in the realm of financial planning, insurance doesn't often grab the headlines like some of the more glamorous topics like saving and investing. But the truth is that when unexpected events threaten to derail even the most meticulously laid money plans out there, the importance of understanding insurance is just absolutely undeniable. And frankly, it becomes even more important when you also have people who financially rely on you. Think about it this way. Insurance equals wealth preservation. Having the right insurance policies can make sure that a single incident doesn't completely wipe out your savings or plunge you into some kind of financial disaster. And what we've talked about so far is really about accumulating wealth, but insurance is all about safeguarding that wealth for the future. For instance, life insurance can play a critical role in securing the financial future of people who financially depend on you. And we'll just go through some of these very quickly. Income protection pays you a regular income if you can't work because of a sickness or disability, and basically will stop paying once you're able to return to work or retire. You also have critical illness cover. This basically provides you with a lump sum amount of money if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness or condition, which means that you're unable to work. And the last one is life insurance, and I'm sorry to be so grim on this one, but life insurance is basically a policy that can pay out protection money to dependents if you pass away. The cost of the policy will basically depend on things like your income, your age, and some of your health factors. It can really help you make sure that your dependents are taken care of should the worst happen. But given we've discussed so many options here, you really only need to do 2 things. The first is to see what cover you already have in place through work. It can be a pretty standard benefit that's offered through a lot of employers, so find out what cover you already have. The second is to decide what kind of cover you want for yourself and your loved ones. Pick a policy accordingly. But just a personal thing here, I personally elected to go through a broker for a lot of this. And that's really because when it comes to the complexity of some of these programs, you want something that's bespoke to you and your circumstances. I'm in the process of moving house, and I'm also the only person who works in our house. My wife is a full-time mum who looks after our 2 young children. And in the event I couldn't work or I kicked the bucket, I wanted to make sure that they would be fully taken care of. So we have a lump sum to completely write the mortgage off, and we have a separate policy that also gives a lump sum so that in the event of my death, they have a roof over their head and they have money to continue living. Next is diversify your income. Do you want to be an income diversifier or a paycheck dependent? A study from the IRS in the US found that the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. So you might want to combine, say, traditional employment, like your 9 to 5 with passive income from investments or side hustles or something else you might have going on in the background. Because even if you have a high income, you're still relying on a single source of income. But really, there are a few benefits to having diversified income streams. It increases your financial security. Even if it's another 100 a month, it can just be nice to know that you have something else coming in. It gives you more flexibility. If you're working a 9 to 5 job, you can get stuck in a rigid structure. A side hustle can be a refreshing change to make sure you've got some flexibility there. You can build another skill set, which you might be able to apply to your work. It gives you the opportunity to take risks, like if another job comes up and you want to take it. But maybe the most important one is it gets you to your financial goals faster. More money means you can get there quicker. But ultimately, focus on services or products that you can scale without requiring proportionately more time. Digital products can be a great way of doing this, or use it as an opportunity to turn your passion into a scalable online business. The internet has kind of never made this easier. Now, I won't go into a full list of possible side hustles. I mean, Lord knows there's enough of that online already, but just focus on the things that you already know or are already good at. If you've worked in recruitment for a long time, then write a CV template for people and put it up on Etsy. Offer CV writing services. Don't assume it has to be something generic like Uber or Deliveroo, but I would always just say be cautious on this one. There is a lot of nonsense and scams out there, so if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is. So we get to the final one, which is check in and adjust, but we do have a bonus one right at the end. So this is really just checking in on your progress to make sure you're on track to hit your money goals and adjusting where you need to. Having a financial plan like what we've talked about is crucial and is really effective. But not checking in on it can render it completely pointless if you aren't making sure that you're sticking to it. And this really comes down to a few main reasons. Your plans might change. Maybe you want to have another kid. Maybe they decide they want to go to university. Maybe you move jobs, you get a pay rise and you don't know what to do with it. Or alternatively, your situation might change. Life happens, shit happens. And so by checking in on your finances and on your plans, you're making sure that you're working towards a set of money goals that still make sense for you. Because when you first start making financial plans, you have long-term goals in mind. Some might even be decades away. But throughout everyday life, these plans may not necessarily cross your mind. And although you might not be thinking about them when you make day-to-day decisions, these choices can have impacts on your longer-term money goals. So reviewing your finances and reviewing your plans will make sure that you're still on course to achieve them. You may be closer to your targets than you expected, and maybe you can create new ones, or maybe you find that you're falling behind. But either way, no matter what the situation, the sooner you recognize this, the easier it will be to take steps to get back on track. And as we've already talked about, just like automating your money, the easiest thing to do here is to just timetable these things in. Say the last Sunday of every month, you sit down and you go through your finances. If you're doing it with a partner, you could turn it into maybe the least sexy date night possible. Sit down with a cup of tea, bottle of wine, or your favorite takeaway and start the conversation off positively. And the last bonus one, which I just wanted to include because I do think it is important, is learning how to spend money. Spending money is a skill. Don't worry, I know how that sounds. You can just swipe a card, tap a phone, click a keyboard, and you can spend money. So to describe it as a skill does sound like madness, and I get it. But how often do you think people really think about money before they actually spend it? And this is one of the really important topics that Ramit Sethi talks about in his book here, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. In the book, he talks about how to live a rich life, that the most important thing is to decide what a rich life means for you. He talks about how he's a multimillionaire. He likes to fly first class or business class, as most millionaires do, frankly. But he doesn't care about cars, so he drives a beaten-up old Honda that is reliable and economical. He spends money on the things that actually make him happy, that bring satisfaction to his life, but he is frugal in pretty much every other part of his life. So ask yourself, what is the thing that's going to make you happy, and buy things accordingly, just not for other people? The idea here is you want to be a strategic spender, not a mindless consumer. A strategic spender spends with intention rather than mindlessly consuming. They identify areas and things that bring genuine, lasting value to their lives, and they make sure that the price they're going to pay for that is worthwhile. So here's an example. A strategic spender might invest in a better accountant or lawyer, knowing that even if it costs more, that's an investment which could very, very easily pay for itself quite quickly. And my last point on this is it really takes guts, I think. When someone asks you why you don't have the latest iPhone and you say you just don't give a shit about them, to live your rich life on your own terms. Apologies, I know we're a little bit over, but there was a lot I wanted to get through, so thanks very much for sticking around. We have this video here about money habits that you need to break in 2025. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, because to stay up to date on all the new personal finance and economics news, the final step is easy, and that is to subscribe. Like this video and share it with your friends. Because for reasons that escape me, we were never taught about money lessons in school, and I'm trying to fix the leak in people's financial lives. Thanks very much for watching.